Hello everyone, it's Marissa here and welcome back to my channel. I am so excited to share today's video with you guys and to share this new recipe with all of you. So we are going to just dive right in. Today we are making this fall harvest pumpkin lasagna. And out of all the lasagnas that I have made in my life, this one is by far the best one yet. It is packed with the classic flavors that make a lasagna taste like a lasagna, but I also added in some extra ingredients to just take it to the next level and provide us with some extra healthy, nourishing nutrients. So we are going to start by making our tomato sauce. So I chopped fresh parsley, basil, and rosemary. Now I don't typically use rosemary when I am making tomato sauce, but I used it because it is currently growing and thriving and really just living its best life in my garden right now. So I'm constantly looking for different ways that I can use it. So I figured, you know what, let me just add some into my tomato sauce. I think it'll probably work out well. And it totally did. I highly recommend if you have it, put it in. If you don't have it, it's okay, you can omit it. But if you have it, put it in because it was good. Then I chopped up a medium-sized sweet onion and I sauteed it in avocado oil. And then I also added in about a teaspoon of minced garlic. I love to buy this like pre-minced. It's such a time saver. I just try to make sure that I buy one where the garlic is submerged in water and not oil. But if you don't have this, that's okay. You can just buy and mince fresh garlic. And once the onion and the garlic are starting to get golden brown, it is time to add in the tomato sauce. So I have 2 cans of tomato sauce here. And then also something that I did was I put a little bit of water in the empty can of tomato sauce for each one. And then I poured that in. It just helps to get any of the remaining sauce that might be on the bottom or on the sides of the can. This is something that my family has always done and I have carried on the tradition. And as you guys can see, I was also working on sauteing some mild Italian sausage. So I removed it from its casing, used a wooden spoon to break it up into little bite-sized pieces, and then I sauteed it until it was fully cooked through and golden brown. Once it was done, I set it aside. Then it was time to finish preparing the tomato sauce, which meant adding in the fresh herbs that I had chopped earlier, as well as some freshly ground black pepper, some dried oregano, and 2 bay leaves. Then I gave it a good stir, making sure that the herbs and the spices were well combined throughout the tomato sauce. And then I let it simmer on about medium heat for at least like 20 to 30 minutes. The longer the better, but this is good enough. And because I didn't cook any meat in the tomato sauce, I didn't have to have it cook as long. If you use raw meat in your tomato sauce, you do have to let it cook longer than just like 20 to 30 minutes, just because you want to make sure that everything is fully cooked through. Now onto the spinach. I'm using fresh spinach and sauteing it until it wilts down, which happens fairly quickly, so definitely keep an eye on it. And I also started to boil a pot of water seasoned with salt to cook the lasagna pasta. Now this recipe does have a lot of moving parts to it, and it isn't the easiest to prepare in a short period of time, but I promise you that the results are totally worth it. And it also meal preps really well, so you can eat it all throughout the week. And also after you assemble it and prior to baking it in the oven, you can actually freeze it, which is actually nice and helpful for the holidays coming up. And if you have a lot of company coming to your house, you need to feed a lot of people. So just something to keep in mind. And something that my grandmother likes to say when she is making a dish like this is to make sure that you really love the people that you're making this for, because there is a lot of work involved. And she's right, there is a lot of love that goes into making a dish like this. But again, the results are totally worth it. All right, so once the spinach has cooked, we are going to transfer it to a cutting board and carefully chop it into small pieces. It's because it's pretty hot, so just be careful. And then we're gonna gather it up into a paper towel or a cheesecloth if you have one, but if you don't, paper towel works fine. And we're going to drain off the water. And as you can see here, there is a lot of water that is present. And if we didn't do this, the lasagna would be very soupy, which is not what we want. And so once I was done with that, I added it into a large mixing bowl and I set it aside. And then the next thing I did was thinly slice some zucchini. And essentially what I'm doing here is just preparing all the different layers that is going to be present in the lasagna. And the last layers that I needed to prepare were the cheese layers. So the first one is using ricotta cheese, which my Italian grandmother loves to say ricotta cheese, but you can say it however you like. And what you see me doing right here is just chopping up some more fresh herbs. So this is parsley and basil and rosemary. And I had this just left over from the garden from what I had done for the tomato sauce. So I just chopped that up, put that into the bowl with the cooked spinach. And then I added in a very generous helping of the ricotta cheese, which by the way, all of the measurements are going to be listed in the description box. You guys can easily refer back to this. And then I also put in some freshly grated Pecorino Romano cheese, which is my personal favorite, but Parmesan also works great in here as well. And I also put in some freshly ground black pepper and a dash of salt and pumpkin puree. Then I gave it a good stir and made sure that everything was well combined. And as soon as it looked just like this, then it was good to go. At this point, I was ready to cook up my pasta, and you want to cook it al dente because it's going to continue to cook in the oven. So this way that when everything is done, the pasta is perfectly cooked and not mushy. And essentially what I do here, as you can see, is I like to add the pasta in kind of like diagonal from each other. This way it prevents it from sticking, and then as soon as it's done, I will run cold water over it and lay them out individually so that they don't stick together. And then the last thing that I needed to do before I was ready to assemble this lasagna was just thinly slice my mozzarella cheese. You could also just shred it or take a shortcut and buy shredded mozzarella, but I personally like to thinly slice it. The bag of pre-shredded mozzarella I find is sometimes a little bit on the dry side, which is just not my personal preference. So I like to just take the extra step to shred it or slice it myself, but whichever you prefer and whatever you want to do. All right, and now, hooray, we are ready to finally assemble this lasagna. So as you can see, I have a glass baking dish here, and I put a layer, just a very thin layer of sauce on the bottom. This just helps to prevent the pasta from sticking to the bottom of the dish. And then I put a single layer of the lasagna pasta right in there. And then I put a generous helping of the ricotta cheese mixture on each one. And then using a spatula, I just like spread that out on each pasta lasagna noodle and got a nice like thin layer. I don't like it too thick. I like a nice thin layer. Again, a lot of this now comes down to like your personal preference, but I don't like it when it's like too much, but that's just my thing. So anyways, I use my spatula, just really spread that out right all over. And then I put the thin slices of zucchini right on top of that. And then right on top of the zucchini, I am adding on the sausage, and I just make sure that there's a little bit all over it, just so that everybody gets a little bit of sausage when they bite into their lasagna. Then I put on kind of an alternating like sections. Again, it just depends on how much you want. I don't like it too much. So I actually did a lot on the first layer here of mozzarella cheese, but then afterwards I kind of made it a little bit more spaced out, but again, whatever you prefer. And then I just put a very light coating of tomato sauce right on top of that. And then once I was done with the tomato sauce here, I put on the lasagna noodles and I started all over again. So you're gonna repeat the process over and over again until you are to the top of the dish. And then if you have extra, which I did, in terms of like, lasagna noodle as well as the cheese and everything, what I ended up doing was making some lasagna roll-ups, and those are currently sitting in my freezer, and I'm going to be cooking them on a night where I'm just like low on time, don't have time to cook. So it's again a good meal prep option here, and I'm really excited to eat it. And I basically just put all the same things in the lasagna pasta and just rolled it up. And I can't wait to eat that because this is all gone. By the time I'm doing this voiceover, you guys, this dish is all gone. So I'm excited because that way I'll be able to eat it again in like a week or two. Now for the very top, once you are done adding in all your layers and all you have now is some pasta, you're going to cover it with tomato sauce, because if you do not, then the pasta is going to get very, very crunchy. And I like having the sides crunchy, but not the entire top crunchy, and it will dry out as well. So you want to make sure that you cover it with a nice layer of tomato sauce. Doesn't have to be a lot, but just like a thin layer just to keep it moist, and that way it doesn't dry out. And then you can either leave it like that, or you can add on a little bit more cheese and have that melted right on top and get golden brown, which I love. So I just added a little bit of cheese right on top with mozzarella, as well as some of the freshly grated Pecorino Romano cheese and some dried oregano, because that's my favorite and I think it just adds great flavor. And then you're going to bake it in the oven at 350 degrees for about an hour. Everything in here is cooked. We just want the cheese to melt and everything to kind of blend together. These are the lasagna roll-ups that I put in the freezer. I just covered it with some plastic wrap. And this is what the lasagna looked like when it came out. You basically just want to make sure that the middle is pretty hot, and as long as all the cheese looks melted, you're good to go. You're ready to eat and serve. And you guys, look at this. I love the melty cheese. It just comes out, oh, it's just too good. It's too good for words. I just can't. So thank you guys so much for watching today's video. Give it a big thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and let me know what you think of this recipe down below in the comment section. Also, make sure that you are subscribed for more healthy recipes and to improve your health. See you in the next video.